Good afternoon. Please take your seats. I call the meeting of General Committee on Democracy, Human Rights and Humanitarian Questions to order. I will now consider the remaining amendments to the draft resolution. I will begin with the 34 amendment. I call Mr. Senko from Belarus to propose the amendment 34. Is not Mr. Senko, it's his colleague.
Уважаемые коллеги, мы предлагаем дополнить проект резолюции пунктом, направленным на защиту экономических и социальных прав человека. Вопросы обеспечения и защиты прав человека традиционно занимают одно из важнейших мест в повестке дня ОБСЕ. Социальные и экономические права являются неотъемлемой составляющей концепции прав человека, а их защита заслуживает самого пристального внимания. Мы этим самым и уделяем внимание пристальное, внося такую поправку. Просим поддержать. Спасибо.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No. Mrs. Shomish, your opinion.
These amendments are one of those that you would not be in favor if there were no amendments that were already adopted by the will of parliamentarians, which is a sacred thing for me, with the broadening up the definitions. So if there was an atmosphere to adopt other broadening definitions or expressions or fields of human rights, then this should be as well. So I'm in favor of amendment submitted by Belarus.
I'm going to put the amendment 34 to the vote. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Okay. Those vote against, it's clear. Abstentions? The amendment, it was adopted. Amendment 35, I call Mr. Fitis from Cyprus to propose amendment 35. Please note that if amendment 35 is agreed to, amendment 36 will be preempted and will be not called.
Thank you. In connection with our previous relevant amendment, we would wish a paragraph that better reflects the concerns and interests of countries severely affected by economic recession and soaring unemployment, which are also particularly exposed to illegal migratory pressures. Ensuring respect of the fundamental human rights of all individuals, including migrants, be they legal or illegal, is essential. Therefore, states' efforts towards comprehensive and effective migration policies must be in strict compliance with human rights standards. Such policies should aim at maximizing the benefits of legal migration in accordance with the labour market needs, at promoting migrants' effective integration in societies of host countries, and at curbing illegal migration. We could therefore couldn't agree to a more generalised implementation of this measure, or to Parliament's adopting measures that they encourage illegal labour migration on a mass scale. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No. Mrs. Chomic, the floor is yours.
I'm in favor of the amendment. The point is that there should be much more work of the national parliaments and us in national parliaments, regardless of the migrants' legal status, on protecting their rights and taking account that they are there and they will be there in the future more than maybe we have assessments nowadays.
I'm going to put the 35th amendment to the vote. Those who vote in favour, raise your cards. Those who vote against, abstentions. The amendment 35 is adopted. Amendment 36 is fallen. I don't call for the amendment 36. Amendment 37, I call Mrs. Herzig from Switzerland to propose the amendment 37.
Vielen Dank, Frau Präsidentin, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen. Die Schweiz hat die Folterprävention während ihres OSZE-Vorsitzes zu einer ihrer Prioritäten in der menschlichen Dimension erklärt. Außerdem haben wir ja als Schweizer Delegation an dieser Jahresversammlung eine Resolution zur Folterprävention eingereicht. Deshalb würden wir Ihnen gern vorschlagen, dass wir hier auf diese Resolution bereits hinzielen. Natürlich kann das nur unter Vorbehalt geschehen, dass sie tatsächlich angenommen wird. Sie ist auf der Traktandenliste und die Akzeptanz scheint uns wahrscheinlich. Denn Folter in jeder Form ist für viele oder die meisten für uns oder alle intolerabel. Wenn wir sie hier bereits nennen, dann erhält sie mehr Gewicht, weil das die wichtigste Resolution der Jahresversammlung in unserer Dimension ist. Ich bitte Sie um Unterstützung.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? The floor is yours.
Si je ne me trompe pas, je crois que l'amendement numéro 38 est plus restrictif. 37 réfère donc à une résolution qui est plus restrictive puisqu'elle renvoie à la torture. Et donc, ce qui est maintenant mentionné dans le point 20 est plus global. Donc, je suis contre.
Your opinion, Mrs. Schmidt?
Yeah, I'm against the amendment because this paragraph is very important. If really would be implemented, it would be a giant step forward because we would have a special rapporteur on cases of indefinite detention or lack of rule in the OSCE area. And there are cases that there are notes about, and they are growing and increasing, not decreasing in the OSCE area. So I would stick with the general definition of political prisoner and with the cases that are coming to us as information. So that's why I'm against the amendment, but does not mean that I'm not in favor of following the resolution on combating torture that we adopted. On the contrary.
I'm putting the amendment 37 to the vote. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Those who vote against, abstentions. (19 in favor, 23 against, 2 abstentions. This amendment is defeated. Amendment 38. I call Mr. Senko from Belarus to propose the amendment 38. Oh, it's not Mr. Senko. Думаемский.
Уважаемые коллеги, внося такую поправку, мы исходим из того, что БДИПЧ ОБСЕ обладает достаточным мандатом и экспертным потенциалом для рассмотрения вопросов бессрочного содержания под стражей или отсутствия верховенства закона в регионе ОБСЕ. Поэтому полагаем, что введение дополнительных неконсенсусных механизмов в правочеловеческой сфере может привести лишь к дальнейшему перекосу в деятельности ОБСЕ. Просим поддержать нашу поправку. Благодарю.
Does anyone wish to speak against? No, Mrs. Chomich, the floor is yours.
I'm against this amendment because the point is the attempt that a special rapporteur should be established. Human beings are sometimes silly people. You don't stick to your words following by acts. So when there's a gender, human rights, trafficking, violation, illegal detention, etc., you always need someone neutral to say this is what is really happening. And until you have such a person in your own system, rule of law, or on the national level, people do tend to lie that there are no indefinite detention, etc. And that's why I'm strongly against this amendment.
I am putting this amendment 38 to the vote. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Those who vote against, it's clear. Abstentions? The amendment is defeated. As Amendment 39 and 31 are presented by me, I will ask the Vice Chair, Mr. Kulkaluglu, to take the chair for these three amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now I call Ms. Santos from Portugal to propose Amendment 39.
This amendment expresses our concern about misuse of administrative procedures and their legislation to detain, imprison, intimidate and silence human rights defenders and critics in numerous OSCE's participating states, including Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Russia and the Russian Federation. I know this is a very sensitive amendment, but in my country we used to say that in front of problems we have two attitudes. Do as the ostrich and stick our head under the sand, or face the problems. I think all of us as parliamentarians and people with open mind and goodwill and constructive attitude, we prefer to face the problems, and by that I hope have your support in this amendment.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 39? Yes, please. Ms. Animova from Russia.
Мы будем голосовать против этой поправки, да, потому что считаем, что некорректно перечислять страны, в частности Азербайджан, Беларусь, Казахстан и Российскую Федерацию, потому что нарушения есть во многих странах. И мы считаем, что поправку эту принимать нельзя. Спасибо.
Thank you. Ms. Chomich, please, we need to listen to your opinion.
I'm in favor of this amendment, and I know that me being in favor doesn't mean that a lot of parliamentarians would vote for the amendment, but I think it's an important intervention. I myself thought about introducing human rights defenders and critics in sentences like this. But when I saw the amendment came, I do welcome it. And I can only support Ms. Santos on on the choices that there are. You can deny that there is a human defender in my country, in your country, who is treated like state or public enemy number one and has a hell of a life. Yes, you can deny that. But the time of denial is quite short comparing to the time that will come inevitably where all the human rights should be and will be implemented with all the weaknesses that all already developed countries do, respecting their human rights defenders. It is an important amendment and I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of Amendment 39, please raise your voting cards high. All those against, please raise your voting cards high. Are there any abstentions? Okay. In favor, 29. Against, 22. Abstentions, 7. So Amendment 39 is adopted. I call Mr. Otherhold from the United States of America to propose Amendment 40. Please.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to recognize the delegation from Turkmenistan that they are here at this meeting in Baku, and glad to see their presence here. However, the Helsinki Commission and the U.S. government have joined others by raising constantly over the years the cases of which we have, cases of those who have disappeared in Turkmenistan's prisons, including the cases of 2 former foreign ministers, Boris Shikmurodov and Bader Berdayev. Mr. Berdayev also served as the Turkmen ambassador to the OSCE in Vienna. I simply ask with this amendment that the government of Turkmenistan provide concrete information, particularly to the families of those who disappeared. Certainly they deserve no less than to know the condition of their loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 40? Yes, please. Turkmenistan, Mrs. Atayeva, please.
Обозначение постоянной делегации Туркменистана, парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ и наше участие первый раз за много лет в его заседаниях – очевидные доказательства практических шагов и намерений для дальнейшего укрепления нашего взаимодействия и сотрудничества в области прав человека со всеми нашими партнерами. Мы считаем, что данная резолюция в первоначальном виде, как была предложена швейцарской делегацией, хорошо сконструированной и сбалансированной, которая касается всех наших членов государств без лишних выделений, проблем или отдельных государств. Мы твердо верим, что он будет служить гораздо большей цели, резолюцию в таком виде, а не пытаться выделить какой-либо конкретный вопрос или государство. По этой причине мы против предлагаемых поправок к резолюции и просим наших коллег проголосовать против них. Спасибо.
Thank you, Ms. Atayeva. Now we would like to hear Mrs. Chomic's opinion of the amendment. Please, the floor is yours.
The first amendment was adopted, mentioning the persons who have disappeared in Turkmenistan's prisons, etc. And I already explained why I like the idea, but I think that issue is too serious to just pass it by with favor and against. And this is my problem with this amendment as well, because we all know that there is a list of people who are disappeared, have been, nobody knows where they are in Turkmenistan. not just Mr. Sukmadov and Bediev mentioned in amendment. So I would prefer that if we all got some messages that the Turkmenistan delegation would step in a dialogue about the information about people missing. I mean, those are living people with families, etc., not just to be happy or unhappy with this amendment adopted. I know how hard it is to deal with people who just disappear. It's hardly to compare that to anything else. And that's why I have so hard times to say I'm in favor or I'm against. So it will be up to your parliamentarians to decide what will happen with this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chomic. All those in favor of... now I shall put the Amendment 40 to the vote. Please, all those vote in favor of the Amendment 40, raise your cards high. All those against, please raise your cards high. Are there any abstentions? Okay. 27 in favor, 17 against, 14 abstentions. So Amendment 40 is adopted. Now I call Ms. Santos from Portugal to propose Amendment 41. Please, Ms. Santos, the floor is yours.
The amendment, it's very clear. It's a basic principle of international law, but in some cases is being forgotten. And with this amendment, we encourage the participating state to don't allow the expulsion, non-refoulement and extradition of migrants and asylum seekers to states where there is a consistent pattern of violations of human rights. It's basic, and it's very clear, the amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Santos. Does anyone wish to speak against the Amendment 41? Okay. Please, Mrs. Chomic, we would like to hear your opinion. The floor is yours.
I'm very much in favor of this amendment because it's not a very hard job to establish as a developed state that are the target of the labor migrants or asylum seekers. Is it for real or something in fake? And I think that we should protect those who should not be really returned to the societies or places where they can be subjected to hard violation of human rights. I know that objections may be how will you establish it? It does happen in all the developed countries. There are ways and means, so I'm in favor of this amendment.
Thank you, Mrs. Chomic. Now I shall put Amendment 41 to the vote. All those in favor of Amendment 41, please raise your voting cards high. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. Are there any abstentions? $43 in favor, 4 against, and 3 abstentions. So Amendment 41 is adopted. Now I will ask Ms. Santos to resume the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Kokaluglu. I call Mr. Holm from Sweden to propose Amendment 42.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is nothing difficult. It's a line that we usually put in the documents about urging the Republic of Belarus to immediately release and rehabilitate all political prisoners. No one named and no one forgotten. Since we were here last time, or since we met last time with the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, one of the well-known political prisoners have been released, which we welcome, but there still remains people, and therefore this is an open sentence that means what it says, all political prisoners. I think that is important in an organization, in a committee like this, focusing on democracy and human rights, and also for the OSCE to put this into the resolution. As of course we know, and we have always had that discussion, there are countries that are worse. We are now in a country where we know that we also have human rights problems. We spoke about Turkmenistan earlier, which is probably far worse than Belarus, but we have seen through the last years a setback when it comes to the democracy and human rights, and an increase of political prisoners. But now we are happy that one more is released, and we are urging the state of Belarus to release the rest of them and also to rehabilitate them. Thank you very much.
I have one inscription to speak against. It's that from Belarus, Mr. Senko.
Спасибо, господа председатель. Первое, что я хотел сказать, в Беларуси политических заключенных нет, поэтому мы предлагаем эту поправку снять. Но в некоторых случаях у нас существует различия в подходах к определению термина политических заключенных. Но для автора поправки, например, по его словам, нет ничего сложного в определении. А я хочу вам привести совершенно недавний пример, когда даже по свидетельству некоторых правительств европейских стран человек был осужден по ясным конкретным фактам. Еще раз подтверждаю, их дали свидетельства правительства европейских стран. Но, тем не менее, этого человека сочли политическим заключенным. Как сказал автор поправки, ничего сложного нет, да? Но если так односторонне, предвзято, то да. Спасибо.
Mrs. Chomich, your opinion.
I'm in favor of the amendment submitted by Mr. Holm, and I'll try to give brief argumentation why. You will not find any human being with the conviction that he is guilty of political ideas. It does not happen. But we all know who is in detention or convicted because of political beliefs. They are either terrorists or work against state and leader or do something criminal. You can't find really a clear case. This is 10 years for your political belief, not even religious. But we know who is in prison. So if this resolution moves that part of dialogue forward, then I would be personally very happy. And that's the reason why I'm in favor of this amendment.
I'm putting the amendment 42 to the vote. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Those vote against. Abstentions? The amendment 42 is adopted. Amendment 43. I call Mrs. Alimova from Russia to propose amendment 43.
Российская делегация просит исключить пункт 21 полностью, так как мандат у каждой операции, миссии свой в зависимости от страны. Его сроки зависят от выполнения миссии своей задачи и желания принимающей страны. Мы просим поддержать эту поправку.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? Amendment 43? No? Mrs. Tromich, the floor is yours.
I am against the amendment because no society with difficulties in establishing rule of law and rule by the law, not by law, would wishfully say, we need a recipe for establishing institutions. It's not normal to expect. And that's why if there is a dialogue between institutions in society and OSCE field mission, that's up to the host country. But you have to give legitimacy to the OSCE field mission because that's the only way that they can do something and move things forward in society, from my point of view.
Thank you. I move to the vote of this amendment 43. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Votes against? Abstentions? The amendment is defeated. Amendment 44. I call Mr. Bekkevold from Norway to propose the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair and dear colleagues. Mr. Anar Mammadli is a respected defender of voters' rights in Azerbaijan. He is the chairman of the Azerbaijani Election Monitoring and Democracy Study Center. On 26 of May, he was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison. According to Azerbaijani authorities, he has been involved in illegal entrepreneurship and fraud. Our view is that the court decision is an element in a campaigning by the authorities in Azerbaijan to silence those who work to ensure the protection of fundamental freedoms. The verdict against him is a contravention of both the country's obligation to its own citizens and its commitment as an OSCE participating state. Mr. Mammadli is defending the rights of his country's voters, and he should not be in prison. So, dear colleagues, I hope that you will support this amendment. Thank you.
I have the inscription of Mrs. Aslanova from Azerbaijan to speak against.
Teşekkür ederim Hanım Santoş. Mən təkliflə əlaqədar bir neçə məsələni deymək istərdim. İlk növbədə Anar Məmmədli ilə əlaqədar təklif verən tərəfə müraciət edirəm. Bir insanın fəaliyyətində əgər cinayət tərkibi varsa, bu onu qanunun cəzalandırılmasından azad etmir. Çox pis bir presedent yaranır. Əgər bir insanın sahibkarlıq fəaliyyəti ilə əlaqədar nöqsanları varsa, o cəzadan necə yayılmalıdır? Deməli, kimsə etdiyi hər hansı bir hərəkətə görə, cinayətə görə dərhal siyasi bir podtekstlə onu ört-bastır edəcəksə, deməli, onu həmin o cəzadan azadmı eləmək lazımdır? Hesab edirəm ki, təklif 57 ölkəni əhatə edən geniş ATƏT bölgəsindən yalnız Azərbaycanı xüsusilə vurğulaması qeyri-obyektivdir. Biz bu təklifi Azərbaycana qarşı mütəşəkkil şəkildə irəli sürülmüş tədbir kimi qiymətləndiririk. Güman edirəm ki, təklifin müəllifi Anar Məmmədlinin işi ilə bağlı obyektiv məlumata malik deyil. Siz dünən xanım Santoş Azərbaycanda vətəndaş cəmiyyətinin nümayəndələri ilə görüşdünüz və özünüz gördünüz ki, nə qədər müxtəlif fikirlər var. Azərbaycandakı durumu düzgün qiymətləndirmək üçün, Anar Məmmədlinin işinə obyektiv qiymət vermək üçün bu işi doğrudan dəqiq öyrənmək lazımdır. Bir tərəfli yox. Hüquq mühafizə orqanlarının təqdim etdiyi ekspertizanın nəticələrinə əsaslanmaq lazımdır. Mən çox təəssüf edirəm ki, təklifin müəllifi yalnız ona müxtəlif müxalifət təşkilatlarından ona ötürülən səhv məlumat əsasında bu fikri bugün burada səsləndirir. Biz bununla qətiyyən razı deyilik. Biz hər bir diyaloqa razıyıq. Hörmətli xanım Komiç dedik ki, Azərbaycan həmişə diyaloqa hazırdır. Hər bir kəsin, hər bir hüquq müdafiəçisinin fəaliyyəti ilə hər bir diyaloqa hazırdır. Amma diyaloq bərabər hüquqlu tərəflərin birgə münasibi nəzərdə tutur, obyektivliyi nəzərdə tutur, həqiqətə söykənməyi nəzərdə tutur. Venada olan görüşdə də biz Anar Məmmədli ilə əlaqədar olaraq bütün faktları qoymuşduq. Bitirirəm, qoymuşduq. Azərbaycan dövləti bu məsələdə dəqiq mövqeyini ortaya qoyur və bir daha demək istərdi ki, Anar Məmmədlinin həbs olunması onun fəaliyyətindəki cinayət tərkibi ilə əlaqədardır, siyasi motivlərlə xeyr deyil. Və hörmətli həmkarlarımı bizi dəstəkləməyə çağırıram.
Mrs. Chomich, your opinion, please.
I am in favor of this amendment, and I owe you why are the reasons. If the case is that Mr. Ali Mamadli is a criminal, then either share with everybody clear evidence or start a dialogue. I was at the meeting that was organized, side event, by Isabella Santos yesterday, and I've heard a lot and saw beautifully Azerbaijani people being involved in the situation in their own country. And I think that the day yesterday is a beginning of dialogue, and that will be good for Azerbaijani society. And I think that the fact that I'm in favor, I don't know how parliamentarian will vote, I'm in favor that also can be good for the society as a whole. The dialogue is the only strategy of democracy, and dialogue means that you talk to the people that you don't like. When you talk to the people you like, that's chit-chat, and that's easy. But dialogue is about the issues you don't like and with the people you don't like, but it is inevitably. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. I'm going to put to vote this amendment, Amendment 44. Please vote in favor, raise your cards. Those who vote against, raise your cards. It's clear. Abstentions? "30 votes in favor, 14 against, 10 abstentions. The amendment is adopted. Amendment 45, I call Mrs. Habsburg Douglas from Sweden to propose this amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, dear colleagues. I would have to ask you to concentrate, because I think I have to change the text of my amendment a little bit so that it's correct. And I would like to say, urges the government of Azerbaijan to once again open the OSCE office in Baku, and also urges the government of Azerbaijan to re-upgrade the mandate of the project coordinator in Baku. So, if you could agree that we change it into that way so that it is correct. And I also think it's very important that we think about...
Just a minute. Also, only a minute. We have unanimity to accept this oral amendment? Yes. Okay. Any objections? No. You can proceed.
Okay, and I wanted to say I think it's very important for Azerbaijan that they do not lose the perspective of EU enlargement, because the idea of the Eastern Partnership is in the end that the countries who are part of the Eastern Partnership become member states of the European Union. And to show their commitment, it would be good if we once again would have this office of the project coordinator in Baku. Thank you.
Mrs. Aslanova, do you want to speak against? Yes? It's that
yes.
What you want? Yes, okay.
Hörmətli xanım sədr, çox təəssüf ki, xanım Habsburg məhz yenə də Azərbaycanla əlaqədar olaraq belə bir təkliflə çıxış edir. Burada 3 blok məsələ var. Bunlardan birincisi ATƏT-in Bakıdakı ofisi məsələsidir. İkinci məsələ Azərbaycanda qanunun aliliyin məsələsi və üçüncü şərq tərəfdaşları məsələsi. Mən istərdim söyləyim ki, bu təklifin müəllifləri Azərbaycanda fəaliyyət göstərən ATƏT layihə əlaqələndiricəsinin fəaliyyətinə kölgə salır və Azərbaycanla ATƏT arasında mövcud əməkdaşlıqdan xəbərsiz olduqlarını göstərir. Avropa İttifaqına Azərbaycanın üzvlüyü və şərq tərəfdaşlığı təşəbbüsü çərçivəsində ölkəmizin siyasətinə gəldikdə isə bu barədə mən həmin təklifin müəllifləri ilə hərtərəfli dialoq aparmağa hazıram. Lakin təklifin müəllifləri ilk öncə Azərbaycanın güdüyü məqsədlərdən xəbərdar olmalı, hər hansı suallar yarandıqda Azərbaycan nümayəndə heyəti ilə məsləhətləşmələr keçirməli və bizim nümayəndə heyətinə yaxınlaşa bilərdilər. Təəssüf edirəm ki, bu baş verməmişdir və müəlliflər qətnamə vasitəsilə öz iradlarını Azərbaycan nümayəndə heyətinə çatdırmaq istəyirlər. Bu təklifin Azərbaycanın xarici siyasət prioritetləri ilə heç bir əlaqəsi yoxdur və biz onu yersiz hesab edirik və həmkarlarımı buna qarşı çıxmağa çağırırıq. Təşəkkür edirəm.
Mrs. Chomich, your opinion, please.
It will be easy to give an opinion, but I have a request, a plea for Ms. Habsburga Douglas to read what she proposed as oral amendment and nobody objected, because I've heard it, but I'm not sure that everybody else. Nobody objected oral amendment. And I heard what does it mean, and it's totally different from the text. I am in favor, but I think if that would be okay with the rules, just to have Walburga to read it once more.
What I was saying was, urges the government of Azerbaijan to once again open the OSCE office in Baku, and also urges the government of Azerbaijan to upgrade the mandate of the project coordinator in Baku.
So that is amendment as it is, because nobody objected oral amendment, and I'm in favor of that sentence.
No, not objected. Have a different opinion.
She's not.
Opinion against.
Biz həmin təklifin əleyhinəyik. Hər iki variantda, istər birinci, istər ikinci variantda, hər ikisinin əleyhinəyik.
Thank you very much for this reference. Now I'm going to put to vote this amendment 45, the last amendment to this draft resolution. First, those who vote in favor, please raise your card. Those who vote against, it's clear. Abstentions? Abstentions? Okay. The amendment is adopted. And this concludes the consideration of amendments. Thank you to all of you for your so kind support and cooperation in this.
Biz bilmədik, siz birinci mi, ikinci mi düzəlişlə səsə qoydunuz? Yəni hansı variantı qoydunuz səsə?
We don't have. We only have one version because the Mrs. Valburga have written to all of us have read to all of us what is the version, the final version of this amendment. It was what is voted, the oral amendment that defeat this with what is written. Okay? I'm seeing some.
По процедуре по пункту 22, под пункт 10, Казахстан, нельзя принимать рукописную или устную без единогласного подтверждения этого. Повторите еще раз.
But it was admitted before I call if it is unanimous, and anyone have presented any objection. It was accepted by unanimous position of this assembly. Thank you. We are moving to the discussion about
нарушение правил процедур имеется в виду внесла.
I'm very sorry about your position, but I ask to this meeting and I don't receive any objection in the right moment. I'm sorry if in the end of the work you are presenting one objection. I'm very sorry, but that is not the procedure. Now we are going to considering another point of order from Turkey, please.
Thank you, Madam. I am disappointed with the refusal of my oral amendment on Islamophobia. Now, with your permission, I would like to propose a new and separate paragraph which is deeply concerned that there is a growing trend of Islamophobia within the OSCE area.
I'm sorry. I respect your position. But, you know, we have rules and we must respect the rules in the right time. It's not in the end of the discussion that we are moving to the beginning of discussion. I'm sorry, but I can consider your point of order and I can consider your proposal.
Yes.
Xanım Santoş, mən hər iki təklifə öz etirazımı bildirmişdim. Beləliklə konsensus yoxdur. Yəni hər iki, istər yazılı, istər şifahi.
I'm sorry you don't present your objection. You said to us that you don't agree. You don't present an objection to the oral amendment. I'm very sorry, but this is not the right time to present objections. You have a time to present that. You don't present in the right time, we stop the discussion. Discussion is finished. Now we are moving to the supplementary items. We are starting the discussion. We must vote the draft resolution, of course. The discussion is finished. That concludes the consideration of amendments, and I propose that we now formally move to a vote on draft resolution as amended. What is the new point of order from Russia? Yes.
Не столько по порядку ведения, сколько, прежде чем перейти к голосованию, я хочу, российская делегация хотела бы поблагодарить всех за поддержку наших поправок, но, к сожалению, мы не можем проголосовать за поддержку резолюции в целом из-за формирования пункта 12. Это может отразиться в том числе на российской позиции по итоговой декларации. И предложить в конце пункта 12 после слов «постепенного сближения обществ» написать «Грузии, Абхазии и Южной Осетии». Тогда мы готовы проголосовать за резолюцию в целом. Спасибо.
This is not a point of order I can consider. Cyprus.
Thank you. I wish to thank all delegates who supported our amendments. What is important is to vote for the whole resolution, and what is more important is the implementation of the resolution by all participating countries and organizations. Thank you very much.
Yes, I can remember the words of General Ford when we signed the final act of Helsinki, that they have said that we will be judged not for what we have said today, but for what we will do tomorrow. I propose that now we formally move to the vote of the draft resolution. Those who vote in favor of adopting draft resolution, please raise your cards. Those who vote against, abstentions, abstentions, it's one abstention. Do you want to speak? Yes. No abstentions. We have 54 votes in favor, 9 votes against. The draft resolution is adopted. Do you want to speak, Mrs. Aslanova? 1 minute more, because Mrs. Aslanova wants to speak.
Xanım Sandaş, mən ilk növbədə demək istəyirəm ki, mənim etirazım nəzərə almadı və sizin xanım sədr iclası aparmağınıza öz etirazımı bildirirəm, çünki siz mənim etirazımı görməməzliyə vurdunuz. Halbuki mən öz mövqeyimi ortaya qoymuşdum. Hər iki halda Azərbaycan tərəfi öz etirazını ortaya qoydu, ancaq siz nədənsə bunu qəbul etmədiniz. Bu baxımdan mən öz etirazımı, sizin iclası aparmağınıza öz etirazımı bildirirəm.
I'm very sorry, I don't agree with you, but I'll fight for that you can say what you are saying all my life. I can assure you that. And what it happens, I ask for an objection, and I don't have a clear objection. I only heard you, and I think all of you heard you saying that you don't agree with what it was proposed, not rejecting to accept the oral amendment. It's what we are asking. After that, we vote. You reject with your vote. You vote against. It's normal. It's the normal procedure. Thank you for your consideration. And finally, we are now turned to consideration of the first supplementary item, comprehensive immigration reform. The first supplementary item we will consider is this item sponsored by Mrs. De Pietro of Italy. The time available for each member to speak will necessarily be limited. Please consider whether your points could be made during the debate of amendments to the draft resolution rather than during the general debate itself. I call on Mrs. Di Pietro to introduce the draft resolution. Mrs. Di Pietro, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Dear colleagues, I'm honored and pleased to be here today. As you already know, my resolution calls for a comprehensive immigration reform in the OSCE area and in particular in the European Union. I decided to focus my work on this issue for several reasons. Let me start by saying that the number of migrants seeking to enter Europe illegally has surged during the first part of this year. Furthermore, migratory and asylum flows are expected to remain strong or even increase during the summer. According to Frontex, the European Union's border agency, the number of migrants known to have entered Europe illicitly in the first months of this year is close to the total for 2013 and has already passed the total number who arrived during an equivalent period in 2011. Actually, I don't always trust experts' forecasts, but in this context, I agree with Frontex. Looking ahead, everything points to a heightened likelihood of large numbers of illegal border crossings into the European Union and an increased number of migrants in need of assistance from search and rescue operations, but also in terms of provision of internal protection. Well, how to read the latest data? This question is even more pressing in the light of the European Union pending enlargement. Migratory and asylum flows put us in front of huge challenges beyond the shadow of a doubt. Everybody here knows that international migratory is a dynamic and complex phenomenon. Basically, people migrate to improve their economic prospects, ensure a more secure living environment, reunite with their family members, avoid discrimination or persecution in their country of origin. There is a long list of factors impacting on Mediterranean migration routes to the OSCE area, not to mention criminal organizations managing human trafficking flows. Just to name a few, the local and global consequences of the Arab Spring in the Middle East and North Africa, the return of violent instability to Iraq, the dramatic situation in the Horn of Africa, the crisis in the Sahel region, and the dramatic situation in the Horn of Africa, the so-called African arc of instability, attracting numerous terrorist groups, and of course, a never-ending war in Afghanistan. Moreover, the negotiation of readmission agreements has never been an easy task, and their implementation is always difficult. Generally speaking, the OSCE and the European Union cannot ignore the humanitarian consequences of the Mediterranean crisis. Actually, our priority should be the implementation of concrete actions to prevent loss of life in the Mediterranean and better address migratory and asylum flows. I do believe that the OSCE can play an important role by promoting a dialogue about migration with third countries. Whilst the OSCE should demand that the European Union and third countries' policies fully respect human rights, it should also consider Mediterranean migration in a wider context, highlighting the positive potential of genuine integration for socio-economic cohesion. Just to make an example, within this framework, my proposal encourages the sponsoring of measures to facilitate incorporation of immigrants in the labour market, as well as more legal mobility opportunities for study and work. Well, I'm going to get straight to the point. The most relevant aspect of my resolution is that it urges political leaders to promote a comprehensive immigration reform in the OSCE area, in particular in the European Union, advocating the replacement of the Dublin system with a system that ensures genuine responsibility sharing and fully respects the protection needs of refugees. We need to entirely revise the so-called Dublin III regulation, and it is only the first step. I will be short, and we are running out of time. My proposal aims to foster cooperation with key actors, such as the European Commission, for developing a broad range of policies and instruments to manage the increasing challenge of migration, security of external borders and asylum, in full respect with human rights and fundamental values. To complement immediate measures with long programs and initiatives aimed at addressing the root causes of regular migration, working with third countries, especially countries of origin and transit. In conclusion, I would like to make one final consideration. The OSCE and the European Union must take the responsibility for translating into practice the principle of solidarity and burden sharing between the Member States. I really hope I can count on your support, and I thank you for your attention.
I have one inscription for debate till this moment. Mr. Voisin.
Merci Madame le Président, Madame le rapporteur, mes chers collègues. L'année qui vient de s'écouler fut malheureusement riche en drames humains liés à l'immigration illégale, à l'image des naufrages d'immigrés africains près de l'île de Lampedusa. De nombreux efforts ont été consentis par certains États pour sauver davantage de vies, et je pense bien sûr à l'Italie et à l'opération Mare Nostrum en particulier. Mais l'urgence de la situation actuelle a une nécessaire intensification des efforts car des problèmes structurels continuent d'entraver l'action. Et je partage tout à fait l'avis de Madame de Pietro, la charge ne peut pas reposer uniquement sur quelques États. Il ne nous appartient pas ici de nous substituer à la réflexion menée dans les enceintes de l'Union européenne. Mais face à une telle situation, la coopération entre les États membres de l'OSCE s'avère urgente et indispensable, en parallèle à la politique commune d'immigration que l'Union européenne cherche actuellement à mettre en œuvre. Madame Di Pietro nous fait des propositions qui sont intéressantes et je pense qu'au sein de notre Assemblée, le représentant spécial pour les affaires méditerranéennes pourrait prendre en charge la discussion de ce problème, tant auprès des différents pays du pourtour méditerranéen. Le respect des droits fondamentaux, notamment le droit à des conditions de vie décentes, doit être au cœur de l'action internationale afin que les populations les plus pauvres ne soient plus obligées de quitter leur pays d'origine. Le PNUD a fixé des objectifs du millénaire pour le développement auxquels chaque pays de l'ONU a souscrit. Le développement économique doit permettre d'éviter une émigration due au désespoir. La solidarité internationale exige ensuite qu'une politique d'immigration fonctionne avec la possibilité de s'intégrer dans le pays d'accueil. Or, aujourd'hui, nombreux sont les pays européens qui souffrent d'un taux de chômage jamais égalé. L'Europe a besoin de main-d'œuvre qui doit être juridiquement protégée, formée et intégrée, mais elle n'a pas d'emploi à offrir à tous. Mes chers collègues, le constat est alarmant et il est connu de tous. Et il est de notre devoir d'agir rapidement. En ce sens, je vous appelle à voter pour cette résolution comme signe de notre détermination à favoriser la coopération entre nos pays. Merci.
United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We want to speak against this resolution, particularly Section 1 and the parts G 1 through to 3. That's because we believe the Dublin regulations are pivotal to the functioning of the common European asylum system. Although we recognise we should focus on practical cooperation and capacity building for states facing particular pressures such as Italy and others in the southern Mediterranean. As I mentioned earlier, we believe national immigration policies need to be tailored to the member states' labour markets and to needs, and so we oppose calls for exploring new legal migration challenge to the European Union as a response to illegal migration, because we believe that more permissive regimes can act as a pull factor, exacerbating the problems. We do believe that migrants should receive equal protection from abuse and exploitation without discrimination for their migration status. And we also believe that we support the proposition that consistently high standards of refugee protection should operate across all OSCE countries. But we think it's particularly important that we enhance preventative action upstream in countries of origin and transit. Thank you.
Denmark.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. First of all, I would like to say that I think you're doing a very good job. It is a very difficult debate to lead this one, but I think the chair has been doing a very good job in order to keeping this as a good debate, also the debate before. So I would like to praise the chair. When it comes to this matter, I think that the problem or the challenge should be solved where it starts. This will not solve the problem. So from the Danish side, we totally agree with all the good arguments we just heard from Great Britain. We cannot back this as it lies here, but this calls for a solution where the problems begins, because we are actually seeing a great deal of brain drain, and all the people who are fleeing their countries are the people who have the resources to rebuild the countries they are fleeing from. So this will not take care of the challenge. This will only heal the wound a little bit, and it is not good enough.
Malta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Malta fully supports the resolution as put forward. It is important that a roadmap for a comprehensive immigration reform is not just written, but implemented in a realistic and robust manner. It is noted that an unstable environment in North Africa risks providing the necessary space for terrorist organizations and organized crime to operate from. Moreover, democracy and the rule of law cannot be attained without functioning institutions in some of the MED countries. I thank you.
Italy.
Grazie signor Presidente. La delegazione italiana, consapevole delle difficoltà e anche dei limiti di questo testo, ritiene però apprezzabile e complessivamente è a favore della risoluzione presentata. Lo facciamo sulla base di una esperienza che proprio un anno e mezzo fa eravamo in Montenegro, dopo l'ennesima tragedia del mare in Italia, ebbe la solidarietà di tutta l'Assemblea. Come in qualche modo anticipava il collega di Malta, qualche anno fa, con qualche superficialità e con qualche eccesso di ottimismo, si parlò nel mondo di primavere arabe. Sappiamo per esperienza diretta che uno di questi paesi, la Libia, non esiste più. Non esiste il governo, non esiste lo Stato. Esiste una drammatica spiaggia della disperazione dove si sono accumulate migliaia e migliaia di persone. È evidente che l'onore della Marina Militare, qualunque bandiera sia di impedire la morte in mare di qualsiasi essere umano. È anche però altrettanto evidente che i doveri delle democrazie occidentali sono dei doveri di commisurare le risorse alle intenzioni. Da questo punto di vista l'Italia è grata a quei pochi paesi che ci hanno aiutato in Europa. Ci rendiamo conto che 8.000 chilometri di costa implichino una convenzione sul diritto d'asilo meno arcigna dell'ultima varata a Dublino, che obbliga a esercitare il diritto d'asilo soltanto nel paese di prima accoglienza, con tutte le conseguenze per l'Italia, sull'Italia e un qualche egoismo dei paesi europei a nord dell'Italia, che d'altra parte in altri momenti, penso a 10 anni fa, diedero prova di grande generosità nell'accoglimento di un altro tipo di emigrazione. Quindi con questi argomenti molto problematici, con una articolazione, la delegazione italiana apprezza e si riconosce nello sforzo della relatrice. Grazie.
Greece, Belgium, after.
Thank you very much. As I said yesterday, Madam Chair, the reform of Dublin II is a necessity. We cannot stand anymore facing the problem of illegal immigration like monkeys. We don't see, we don't hear, we don't speak. First. Second, the Frontex support. It's the support like a receptionist. Please welcome to Europe, take the stamp of entrance, and that's all. With the exceptions of 2 countries, because we are aware how Frontex is working in Greece, with the exception of those coming from Malta and Latvia. They are doing their job properly, not the rest. Third, I will personally support the amendments produced here by Mr. Divina from Italy. And fourth, I believe that we should stick on the immigration problem at our next annual session, because it's a huge bomb, not only for countries of the Mediterranean coast, but also for the security of Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. Belgium.
Madame la Présidente, permettez-moi de d'abord féliciter Madame Pietro pour son projet de résolution qui contient pas mal d'éléments très positifs tels que la proposition pour une politique de migration plus coordonnée, aussi pour travailler mieux ensemble entre les États membres de l'OSCE. Aussi, elle plaide pour une plus grande solidarité financière avec les pays qui sont confrontés le plus avec le flux migratoire et par exemple aussi avec la proposition pour donner la possibilité de l'éducation aux enfants des migrants. Ce sont tous des éléments très positifs, il y en a encore quelques-uns, je ne vais pas citer tout, mais il y a un élément qui est très important et sur lequel nous ne pouvons vraiment pas se mettre d'accord, c'est sur le point 19D, c'est qu'elle plaide aussi pour réviser totalement le système Dublin. Et tout le monde sait que le système Dublin est un système qui a été mis sur pied après une concertation très longue et c'est un système très équilibré et je ne crois pas qu'ici, on pourrait faire comme ça n'existait pas et de le biffer avec un tiret de stylo, disons. Donc c'est pourquoi je m'opposerai à cette résolution, mais c'est surtout pour le point donc, qui traite donc de réviser le système de Dublin.
Thank you. I don't have more inscriptions for general debate of this supplementary item. Anyone wish to? No. Mrs. Di Pietro, you have the floor for your appreciation.
I will speak in Italian. Okay. E vorrei rispondere innanzitutto alla collega del Belgio, mi sembra, che ritiene che il sistema Dublino debba essere conservato così come lo conosciamo adesso con l'ultima revisione di Dublino 3. A mio avviso non c'è grande differenza fra la precedente versione e l'ultima revisione, veramente sono poche le modifiche e i miglioramenti che sono stati apportati. Il problema principale di questo sistema, e come ha detto precedentemente il senatore Compagna della mia delegazione, è che i rifugiati vengono bloccati nei paesi di prima accoglienza senza consentire loro di poter raggiungere altri paesi dove magari hanno anche la possibilità di ricongiungersi con familiari. Quindi il sistema Dublino a mio avviso presenta dei punti che necessitano di una revisione. Per quanto riguarda il resto, sicuramente il punto principale di questa risoluzione è una richiesta di sostegno, di aiuto agli altri paesi, specialmente quelli dell'Unione Europea, affinché i problemi dell'immigrazione siano affrontati con un atteggiamento maggiormente solidale e di condivisione del peso enorme che i paesi come l'Italia, la Grecia o la Spagna, che si trovano a fronteggiare per motivi geografici questi flussi continui che saranno sempre maggiori, richiedono all'Unione Europea e comunque anche ai paesi dell'OSCE. Grazie.
That concludes the debate of draft resolution. And now we are going to discuss the amendments. 3 amendments have been tabled to draft resolution. I shall allow the proposers of amendments to speak for a maximum of 1 minute. I'm making me signals. Yes. 5 minutes more and we conclude the discussion of this draft resolution. I shall then ask the sponsor to draft resolution for his opinion before putting the amendment to the vote. First amendment, I call Mr. Divina of Italy to propose the first amendment.
Grazie Presidente. Quello che ha elencato la collega è condivisibile nello spirito di fondo, solo che il testo è molto lungo, molto articolato e presenta una serie di parti molto critiche che non possono essere condivise. Per esempio alcune diciture, quando si dice che è troppo difficile entrare legalmente nell'Unione Europea, non è assolutamente vero. Non siamo riusciti a presentare emendamenti su questo punto perché le procedure nostre di OSCE impongono un certo numero, una certa dinamica. Il primo emendamento sostanzialmente tocca il punto B dell'articolo del punto 1, dove si dice sostanzialmente che la riforma generale che servirebbe per l'immigrazione, per raggiungere obiettivi strategici, si dice quali sono i motivi: coesione sociale ed economica. Noi diciamo è vero che serve una coesione sociale ed economica, ma serve anche, e quello che aggiungiamo noi, si dice anche sicurezza, perché noi non dobbiamo mai dimenticare che c'è un paese ospitante e che ha diritto i cittadini di quel paese a una certa sicurezza. Per cui diciamo servono politiche di coesione sociale, servono politiche di coesione economica, ma servono politiche altrettanto di sicurezza per garantire poi la pacifica convivenza in quel paese.
Thank you. Shall anyone want to speak against this amendment? No? Mrs. Di Pietro, your opinion?
Sì, io sono contraria in quanto il punto che riguardante la sicurezza si trova già al punto D del testo, dove si specifica appunto che si fa spesso riferimento alla sicurezza, alla pace, alla stabilità e alla sostenibilità della democrazia, quindi mi sembra ridondante aggiungerlo anche al punto B, visto che già è contemplato successivamente. Quindi sono contraria.
Going to vote this amendment, please. Those who vote in favor, raise your cards. Those who vote against. Abstentions. Nine votes in favor, 19 against, 8 abstentions. The amendment is defeated. Amendment number 2, I call Mr. Divina again to propose the amendment.
Grazie Presidente. Allora, qui parliamo di offrire assistenza e opportunità eque di istruzione ai figli di immigrati presenti sul territorio. Noi pensiamo che sia forse anche una dimenticanza. Dovremmo aggiungere offrire assistenza e opportunità eque di istruzione ai figli di immigrati regolari presenti sul territorio. Noi abbiamo chiesto di aggiungere la parola regolari. Grazie.
Does anyone wish Belgium?
Pour ce point, je viens de dire aussi tout à l'heure que c'était justement un point très positif. Et je crois que quand il s'agit d'enfants, et je ne dis pas les adultes, mais d'enfants, les enfants peuvent jamais être victimes du choix que font leurs parents. Donc même s'ils sont en situation irrégulière ou illégaux, les enfants ont toujours droit à l'éducation, aux soins de santé, et c'est même une des choses qui est stipulée dans la Convention sur les droits de l'enfant. Aussi, chez nous, en Belgique, c'est déjà le cas. Je crois dans la plupart des pays, c'est le cas, que les enfants, même si leurs parents sont sur le territoire de manière irrégulière, les enfants devraient avoir toujours accès à l'éducation. Donc, même si j'ai d'autres point sur lequel je ne suis pas du tout d'accord avec cette résolution, mais sur ce point, sur les enfants, je suis bien d'accord avec ce qu'a proposé Madame Di Pietro et donc je suis contre cet amendement numéro 2.
Mrs. Di Pietro, your opinion, please.
Io credo che dovrebbe essere data priorità alla tutela e all'assistenza dei bambini al di sopra di ogni altra considerazione, secondo anche quello che prevede la Carta dei diritti fondamentali dell'Unione Europea, e quindi l'interesse superiore del bambino dovrebbe essere sempre preminente. Inoltre non dobbiamo dimenticarci che l'istruzione e l'inclusione sociale evitano il crearsi di situazioni di emarginazione, di frustrazione che poi hanno delle conseguenze sulle seconde generazioni, dove infatti vediamo la recrudescenza di collateralità poi con il terrorismo e con situazioni di criminalità, quindi ovviamente io sono contraria a questo emendamento.
We are going to vote this amendment. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Against. Abstentions? Eight votes in favor, 31 against, 3 abstentions. The amendment is defeated. Amendment number 3, I call again Mr. Divina from Italy.
Grazie. Qui stiamo parlando di misure che permettono integrazione di immigrati nel mercato del lavoro. Anche qua, anche in questa, chiediamo di aggiungere la sola parola misure che permettono l'integrazione di immigrati regolari nel mercato del lavoro che assicuri loro maggiori possibilità di muoversi legalmente, eccetera, eccetera, eccetera. Credo che sia un refuso perché se chiediamo la possibilità di muoversi legalmente, penso che non lo possiamo chiedere a persone che siano presenti in modo illegale nel Paese. Per cui misure che permettono l'integrazione degli immigrati e aggiungere regolari nel mercato del lavoro, altrimenti apriremo un mercato del lavoro a chiunque si trova in quel momento sul posto. Credo che sia una cosa sfuggita all'inizio ma doverosa da correggere. Grazie.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? No? Mrs. Di Pietro, your opinion?
Ma penso che il concetto di legalità sia già espresso nell'articolo 23, quindi mi sembra anche qui ridondante.
I'm putting this amendment to the vote. Those who vote in favor, please raise your cards. Those who vote against? Abstentions? We have 25 votes in favor, 18 against, 4 votes for abstention. The amendment is adopted. Now we are closing. First, we must conclude discussion of this amendment and we must vote the discussion of this draft resolution and we must vote the resolution. Please rise those who vote in favor of this supplementary item. Raise your cards. Votes in favor of this supplementary item. Votes against. Abstentions? We have 26 votes in favor, 19 against, 2 abstentions. The resolution is adopted. And now we are closing our works for today. Tomorrow we have a meeting again at 9 a.m. Please, 9 morning. I hope to see all of you here again.